Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. For those of you who may be first-time visitors with us this morning, welcome. Welcome on this morning which we make sacred by our presence together. A big welcome as well to people who are joining us virtually on the live stream. We are glad you are here. I am Reverend Bran Lennox, the leave minister here at First Parish Brewster, and I go by gender-neutral pronouns like they and them. I am honored to be welcoming you to the service with our worship associate, Pat Stover, and our music director, Kevin Badanis. Our services are recorded and available with transcribed subtitles on our YouTube channel midweek. We do ask that everyone over the age of 4 wear a mask while in our buildings. Out of sensitivity for the continued COVID-19 exposure risks for those who are most at risk among us, we are continuing to mask regardless of any changes in policy observed by other local organizations. By masking, we demonstrate care for each other's health and well-being, and we uphold the 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 7th principles of Unitarian Universalism. We welcome the noises, movements, and mirth that little ones bring in our services. Please take this moment, however, to check that your cell phone is on silent. We ask that all wear their name tags or fill out a sticker name tag in an effort to be more welcoming. This morning marks the kickoff of our annual Stewardship Campaign. Woo! For the month of March, we will be considering all the things that we are capable of together as a community and what resources we need to make that happen. We want to celebrate a successful return to in-person services while still including our virtual participants and other amazing hallmarks of the resilience of this congregation. As we continue to navigate the challenges of the present day, we bring each other hope and strength, and to continue the work of this community, we need everyone's support. Members of First Parish will be receiving letters from the Stewardship Committee along with pledge cards by mail in the coming weeks. Please put deep consideration into what you are able to give to support the mission and vision of this congregation. We'll be greeting this stewardship season with a sense of joy and celebration. You can see the beginnings of our special plans for the month here in the sanctuary already, and there are more surprises in store. We'll hear special testimonies from someone in the congregation each week, and you can check out the graphic chart in the parish room, which will keep us updated on our goals as pledges come in. Pat Stover will be telling us more later in today's service. Next Sunday, Director of Music, Kevin Badanis, and I will lead a service dedicated to our love of music in worship. All are welcome next Sunday at 10 a.m. Welcome once again to our service today. It is so good to be together.
Good morning. I'm Pat Stover, and I'm your worship associate today. It's taken a pandemic to make me understand how fortunate I am to be a member of this religious community. In the past 2 years, when talking with family and friends about how we were all coping, I began to realize that not everybody had what I have. I'm afraid that I have been guilty of taking this religious community for granted. Well, of course, we're still having Sunday services, albeit on Zoom. Of course, minister staff, members, and friends stepped up to the technology. Of course, choir members carved out recording studios in their homes so our music director could make of us a virtual choir. Of course, we still welcome new members, celebrated each other's joys, shared each other's pains and sorrows, and continued to support each other with help where needed. Of course we did. We are there for each other and the wider community. We are so fortunate to be members of this religious community. I'm speaking to you this morning not just as worship associate, but also as a member of our Stewardship Committee. As Reverend Brand announced in their welcome, this Sunday marks the beginning of the Stewardship Pledge Campaign, where we ask for your renewed financial commitment to the church. When we ask that you think about what it means to be a steward of this church. Stewardship is about much more than a financial commitment. To be a steward of the church means that we do what we can to make this community thrive, to be successful, to continue on, to benefit members of the future and the wider community, even after we individuals are gone. We each give to this community from the best that is within us. Not only money, but service. Our time, our energy, our passion, our commitment. We each have gifts to share that ensure that this community continues to thrive. Yes, even in a seemingly endless pandemic. The month-long Stewardship Campaign is a time set aside to really think and see what it means to us personally to be a steward. And while you're being thoughtful, also consider this. You know that hymn we sing sometimes, "Let it be a dance"? Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. In the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. We've all been through good times and bad times, both within this community and in our personal lives. Our personal resources, those things we have to give to the community, can wax and wane with the good and bad times. Each year when we think about stewardship, we might be in a different place than we were just the year before. There was a period of time in my life in this congregation when my personal resources were at a low ebb. My well had almost dried up. The only gift of service I could muster up was singing in the choir. I could do that because the joy of singing helped to fill that well for me. That period of time went on for a few years. I called it hiding out in the choir. Others in the church did the heavy lifting. But when I came out of that period, I was again willing and able to step up to serving. Indeed, I came onto the Board of Trustees as president-elect. That's what happens in communities, this dance we do. Sometimes we can join the dance, sometimes we need to sit one out. We can trust that if we need to take a step back, someone else will take a step forward. We're all in this together. Indeed, our theme for this year's campaign is Together We Can. Yes, it did take a pandemic for me to stop taking my UU community for granted, but I am grateful for the lesson learned. Let it be a dance we do in the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Now we will light the chalice in honor of this beloved community.
Good morning. Please rise in body and or spirit as we sing number 407, We're Gonna Sit at the Welcome Table. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. Shout hallelujah when it comes time. We're gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah! We're gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. All kinds of people. All kinds of people around that table. All kinds of people around that table one of these days. Hallelujah! All kinds of people around that table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. No fancy style. No fancy style at the welcome table. No fancy style at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. No fancy style at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. One more time. We're gonna sit. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. We're gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Please be seated.
And I'm going to ask our children and youth and the young at heart to bring that energy all the way on forward for our time for all ages. Come join me on up here. And I think I need some help from some of my friends too. All right. Hi, everyone. I am so glad that you're here with me on this special Sunday when we are talking about stewardship. My friend Barry from the Stewardship Committee is here to help us out because I have a few questions. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Reverend Brand.
Barry, I need help. And since you're a member of the Stewardship Committee, I thought that you might have learned a few things over the years. Do you think you can answer some questions for me about stewardship?
I sure can.
Oh, good. Barry, what on earth happened there?
Well, ooh. Oh, that looks like a dead plant in a barren landscape.
But I don't understand what happened to it. It used to be really nice.
Well, what did you do to take care of it?
Take care of it?
Yes. You can't just ignore it and expect it to survive. You can't just assume that other people will take care of everything. There are certain things that plants and communities need to help them survive.
Hey, that's my home. What happened to my beautiful garden? Where is my beautiful house? Where is my life?
Oh no, Elf Pat. I love the enthusiasm.
Don't worry, Elf Pat. I think we can make it good again. Together we can. I just need to form a committee.
Barry. But Barry, we already have a committee. It's the Stewardship Committee.
Yeah.
Okay, committee. I need my moss. Where is my moss? Dave Rogers? No? Tavia.
You want to help make the community? You want to put the moss in for us?
What about my house? Has anybody seen the house? Well, I had some plants too, you know.
Just happened to have a few.
Yes.
You want to plant that? You want to plant this one? All right. Who else wants to plant? I got that. 3 more coming. All right.
boy. Oh, nice. Yeah, but where's all the stones? We had stones too. No stones? Ah. How about the shells? We had shells too. Ah, Joe. Oh, that looks nice. But I had some friends. It's all ready for some friends. Are there any friends? Wow. And a horse? Is there a horse?
Yay!
Are you comfortable, Elf Pat?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, community.
Kids, I love how you helped make Elf Pat a nice home in a yard.
Oh yeah, it looks so beautiful now, where there wasn't anything there before, and we did that together. I guess that Barry and the whole Stewardship Committee know how to take care of a place so that it can thrive and be beautiful. Thank you so much for your help today, and now we will sing you out to your activities.
Children, may you go now in peace. Children, may you go now in joy. Love surrounds you on your way. Children, may you go now in peace. Children, may you go now in joy. Love surrounds you on your way.
Be sure when you leave the church proper, you come by the front and you can see this beautiful little house and garden we have going here. Since today is the beginning of the month-long Stewardship Campaign with the theme of Together We Can, I just wanted to give you a little bit more information about how the month will go. Stewardship Committee is doing the flowers for the whole month. Today we have a bouquet of dried lunaria, also known as the money plant and the silver dollar plant for obvious reasons. We thought this would be an appropriate flower to start decorating the church with this month. Many of you probably have this plant in your gardens. The flowers come in white and purple. They bloom in the spring and are sweetly fragrant. When the flowers are spent, these lovely luminescent pods form. And if you look closely, you can still see a few black seeds inside up here. They're waiting to explode all over your garden. This plant is really an exemplar of generosity. So you can eventually have too much of it, but the church cannot eventually have too many pledges. So we will begin with this dried bouquet, and then each Sunday in March, as your pledges come rolling in, we will be adding more flowers to the display. Hopefully we will end the month with quite a floriferous display up here. In addition, Kip Keene, our talented artist in resident, where are you, Kip? In the back there. She made a wonderful graphic for us, which we have on display in the parish hallway. So make sure to take a look at that. The clock in the middle will go around as the money starts coming in. So it's a lovely representation. And while you're walking past this wonderful garden we made and going to look at the graphic, keep going into the parish room where, we do have fair trade coffee and goodies for sale, and you can buy a food certificate too. And each Sunday in March will also feature a stewardship testimonial given by a member of the church. This is a very personal and inspiring reflection on why they give to the church. Today, following the next hymn, Maureen Osborne will be giving the testimonial. Thank you so much, Maureen.
I invite you to remain seated as we sing together in our gray hymnal, number 128, the first two verses of For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own desire. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. That is our life.
My friends, good morning. My husband, Topper Roth, and I have been members here for 6 years, still newbies in this crowd. We never even met the legendary Jim Robinson. Like many UUs, I grew up within a top-down religion. Creed and rules were not to be questioned. Rarely did I hear anything in the pulpit that spoke to my heart. And at the end of each service, everybody raced for the door. I first learned I was a closeted UU during our internship years in Milwaukee. Topper and I were accidental tourists searching for a mutually acceptable wedding venue. Like many of us, I found myself weeping through the first service, astonished to learn that a religion existed that could speak to me in such a profoundly personal way. After we settled in the Philadelphia area to raise our family in 1985, we joined the Mainline Unitarian Church. Although we'd moved to Philly to take advantage of all that a big city offered, that church became our primary community. We volunteered as Sunday school teachers and youth advisors, took parts in dinners, auctions, retreats, women's groups, small group ministry, choir, and countless committees. In our final years there, we had a blast as foundational members of the congregation's house band, Red Beans and Rice. Our 2 kids came up through the UU Sunday School program. I rejoiced hearing my 5-year-old daughter recite, "We are Unitarian Universalists, the church of the open minds, the helping hands, and the loving hearts." In middle school, my son stood in front of the congregation and told the story of his near drowning at age 4, although I'd never heard of him speak of it before. Later, the kids loved shocking people by saying they learned about sex at church. As we moved toward retirement on the Cape after 30 years, it was hard to leave our UU community behind. But after visiting churches on Cape Cod, First Parish Brewster was the clear choice. Although smaller in size, it was bursting with energy and music and all-around good vibes. From the start, people here went out of their way to welcome us. We signed the book, and in less than a year, I joined the membership committee. We made music with OMG and joined a covenant group. I'm now in my 5th year as a co-facilitator and also serve on leadership development, the LGBTQ welcoming congregation, right relations, and sing in the choir. We've hosted church-sponsored dinners, costume parties, kayak outings, and film nights. I look forward to meeting new people and trying out new activities. During our 6 years here, I've come to know and love many, many amazing people committed to social justice and the arts. Topper and I found immense personal support just when we needed it. When our son went through a bout of cancer, and when our grandson suffered a stroke at birth. As a congregation, we've carried on through the upheavals of interim ministers, the turmoil of COVID and isolation, and the heartbreaking loss of our settled minister's beloved infant daughter. When the time comes for me to cross over, I feel comforted by the idea that this community will remember and celebrate my life. So, I've come this far without mentioning money. But I believe we should all do our part to support this congregation financially through our annual pledges, capital campaigns, the weekly collection, food cards, and other fundraising activities. We are FPBUU. Let us be known for our open minds, our helping hands, and our loving and generous hearts.
For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks for all that meets our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
As we enter together now into a spirit of prayer, let's also take a moment of remembrance. This week, we celebrate the lives of two among us who have recently died. We remember their lives with love, and we hold those left behind in their grief. Jim Karami died on Monday after a long illness. We hold his family in our hearts, especially his wife, Angela. Bob Waite, longtime friend of this community, died last Saturday. We cherish Bob's legacy of memories, and we hold his loved ones in our hearts, especially his wife, Annie. Let's take a moment of silence to remember these two beloved lives. Many of us are arriving today with troubled hearts. Injustice continues in the world, and this week has raised so many fears. Here in our country, for the safety of transgender kids, and across the world for the horrors of war. Today, let us borrow the words of Corrymeela Community, Northern Ireland's oldest peace and reconciliation organization, as we join our hearts with advocates for peace and justice the whole world over. It is with deep sadness that we pray for peace for the people of Ukraine. God who sees the weakness in acts of naked aggression, God who feels the fear in moments of acute helplessness, cure this warring madness and shield all who fall in harm's way. Leach the poison from the mind that thinks strength is shown in a bullying force. And may an equal strength in solidarity give resolve to those whose aim is to protect and respect not just the ones we call our own, but all with whom we can share a better and more peaceful world. Amen. let us once more allow all of our fears and all of our hopes to be held together in a moment of shared silence. Each week, we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate. Half of what is collected goes to the work of First Parish, and the other half goes to a worthy organization nominated by someone in the congregation. Today, our split plate goes to International Fund for Animal Welfare. Supported by animal lovers for over 50 years, the IFAW works around the globe to rescue and rehabilitate animals, end illegal wildlife trade, and conserve habitats. They collaborate with local communities to create sustainable livelihoods that benefit both people and animals. Learn more about this organization at ifaw.org. There are a couple of ways you can give today. You can text to give. The number is in your order of service. You can put a check or cash in the offertory basket, or for those streaming in, you can donate on our website. However you choose to give today, your generosity is appreciated. The offering will now be gratefully received.
That was so beautiful, Lisa. We are fortunate to have you with your multiple musical talents with us. A vision. If we have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow-growing trees on a ruined place, renewing, enriching it. If we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of earth or heaven, then a long time after we are dead, the lives our lives prepare will live here. Their houses strongly placed upon the valley sides, fields and gardens rich in the windows. The river will run clear, as we will never know it. And over it, bird song like a canopy. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells in noon shade. On the steppes where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, and old forest will stand, its rich leaf fall drifting on its roots. The veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices, they will hear a music risen out of the ground. They will take nothing from the ground, they will not return, whatever the grief at parting. Memory, native to this valley, will spread over it like a grove, and memory will grow into legend, legend into song, song into sacrament. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds, will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream, a dream of paradise. Its hardship is its possibility.
So welcome once more, everyone, to that time of year when we get the really cool opportunity to inspect our community and what we value about it and take into deeper consideration what we each want our place in that community to be. And the first thing I want to say about this is, it doesn't have to be miserable. Yes, we tend to hate talking about money for a lot of reasons, and certainly a part of stewardship involves money. I don't believe we should have to cringe about that, though, but we do need to reframe it away from the guilt and shame into the light of what it means to be a spiritual community with spiritual values, surviving boldly in a country that prioritizes economic values. Part of that reframing is making sure to define clearly what it is we mean by stewardship. Perhaps the reflexive answer is that it's a polite way of saying fundraising, but I don't think that's particularly helpful. We call this part of congregational life stewardship for a reason. It's a chance to consider the variety of ways in which this community we love needs to be cared for in order to thrive, just like Elf Pat's house. When we talk about pledges, certainly on paper, we are trying to keep track of dollar signs, but spiritually, we're talking about pledging to uphold the life of this beloved place. We are pledging to consider each other's well-being and work to meet each other's needs on whatever level we're able. Because we are pledging, because our reach as a whole far exceeds what each of us could do individually. The Stewardship Committee really hit the nail on the head with their message this year. Together, we can. There's something undeniably exciting about realizing what being a part of a congregation like this one empowers us to do in the world. Stewardship means tending to our garden together so that we can bask in its beauty all year round. Aside from his lauded poetry, an example of which we just heard from Pat, Wendell Berry is an essayist, perfectly positioned to draw the connection between stewardship of community and stewardship of the earth. His lifelong passion for agriculture has framed his whole perspective on the world, and he tends to write about all issues from his point of view as a farmer. When he talks about stewardship, he talks about exploiters and nurturers. He explains that an exploiter's goals are profit and prestige, but a nurturer strives for health in all of the interconnected parts of their world. An exploiter's approach is specificity, expertise, exactitude. A nurturer is holistic and considers the larger picture. When we are talking about a relationship with our land, an exploiter wants to extract resources now at any cost later, and a nurturer would rather prioritize a long-term relationship of giving and receiving. True stewardship is the realm of the nurturer. Exploitation puts stress on every part of this system. Stewardship takes the quality of the whole web into account and strengthens each area accordingly. Barry is also an advocate for one of the most important observations to come out of the eco-theology movement, that in dominant culture, we humans tend to think of ourselves as somehow outside of nature. That's natural. This is man-made. This is the city. Out there is where nature is. In Christian theology, it's commonly believed that God made the garden for humans and then set humans with the responsibility to preside over the plants and the animals, thus setting us apart. I tend to agree with eco-theologists that this philosophy is deeply damaging to our humanity and to the world. We are not separate from nature. We are a part of it. We are human animals, and our workings are just as much a part of nature as beaver dens and beehives and rabbit warrens. But the damage to this framing persists. We reflexively separate ourselves mentally from anything which we consider to be under our care. We continue to exert an exploiter's solutions to a nurturance problem. It's time to take the same attitude of belonging to caring for the earth and caring for our community. And whatever resources we are committing to the care of this web, whether they are financial, time, presence, music, anything, there's a pretty important motivation to this investment. One of my favorite sayings about resource allocation is, a budget is a values statement. Aside from the delicious punniness, the phrase is a simple and effective guide for when we start to get bogged down in the details. What are our values? When you invest any resources in this congregation, you are expressing support for values like equity, justice, compassion, and inclusion. The truth is, communities like this one are so desperately needed right now. Churches are a dime a dozen, but churches that advocate for the dignity of human life, the right to seek truth for ourselves and care for the natural world, this is painfully rare. Just by being here today, you are investing your energy in the potential of a place where, together, we can both take care of the needs within our own circle and reach for peace and safety for those facing the terrors of things like war across the globe. We are investing our energy in a place that attempts to bring healing from enormous harms and also continues to create inspiring art and joyful togetherness. I get excited just considering what's possible for us. When the world is full of pain and fear, it's even more important that we look to what gives this community life. To paraphrase an unforgettable statement by poet Nikki Giovanni, if I take care of my block and you take care of yours, we have two good blocks. Our reach alone can only make so much difference. However, we have the power to make a good block here, and that power grows into the tremendous ability to make change that blossoms outward and outward. When times are as fraught as these are, and you find yourself wondering what you can do, the answer is find your people here. Bring your energy here. Alone, we are sadly almost powerless, but together. As I keep saying, all of our types of energy make a difference. I cannot emphasize enough how much your presence is a vital resource, no matter what else you are able or unable to give right now. However, when talking about resources, we do tend to come back to talking about money. Without money, can we have a spiritual community? Well, yes, we can. But we do live in a capitalist society, and without money, we can't have things like a building, or internet technology, or professional music, or a paid staff. Our values include a meeting space. Our values include distance accessibility, and fantastic art, and support for leadership. So some of the energy that we budget to this congregation comes in the form of money. Deciding what to do with whatever money we have is an emotionally loaded process, and reminding ourselves that this community needs whatever you can spare can feel a little uncomfortable, or a lot uncomfortable, depending. As somebody who has lived my entire adult life below the poverty line, I'm particularly sensitive to the fact that these conversations sometimes lack reverence for those of us who truly do not have anything to spare. Time, money, effort, we can't take for granted that it is possible for everyone to contribute on these fronts. This is where talking about money from a nurturing lens becomes a little tricky. Because as soon as we talk about giving without taking those who can't into consideration, we have created a hierarchy. The message is now exclusively for those who can afford it, and everyone else must wait. Democratic congregations inadvertently perpetuate the charitable hierarchy in a variety of ways. It starts with the expectation that everyone will give and the willingness to make nice exceptions for the needy. Perhaps we say well-meaning things like, it's okay if you can't donate, serving on a committee is just as important, which puts people who don't have time or energy to spare in a bit of a pinch. Some organizations hold special events exclusively for top donors. If we're honest, no one wants to step on the toes of the most generous contributors. Their feelings are always accounted for, and their vote counts for just a little bit more. After all, aren't they doing more for the community life than anyone else? The invisible hierarchy hangs like a cloud behind community life. Wendell Berry, however, reminds us to give more back to those who can afford to invest is the paradigm of exploitation. To be nurturers, we must give and receive out of a sense of belonging. This is the dichotomy between charity and an ethic called mutual aid. Mutual aid is a paradigm of giving that honors our interconnectedness. There is no superiority to the status of donor or shame to the status of recipient. In fact, we are all obligated to receive from this community regardless of our personal resources. We must eat from the same table, metaphorically, as part of maintaining our connectedness. The difference between charity and mutual aid is a lot like the difference between the two definitions of respect. One type of respect is the respect of equality, knowing that you and another person both have immeasurable worth and treating each other as such. Expecting this kind of respect, the respect of peers, can guide us to hold our own needs in balance with the needs of others, while recognizing that we're all different. The other type of respect is the respect of authority. This is the kind that demands to be addressed by sir or ma'am, the kind that sees it as rude to be questioned, the kind that demands a closed-mouthed compliance. Expecting this kind of respect is all too often a reasonable explanation for violence, from a smack on the mouth from a parent to a taser dart from a police officer. It's justified. After all, they needed to learn some respect. These two radically different definitions of respect come from two radically different ideas of how we ought to build relationships. So when we're called upon to be generous, it's a good time to ask, what kind of relationship are we building? Hierarchical or mutual? A relationship between equals, or one where someone is superior? Another big alternative to the charity model involves looking at privilege as a responsibility. It's kind of like saying, I was blessed with a voice that loves to sing, so when singing is asked of me, I say yes. Some folks were blessed with enough capital resources to help finance our community, so when you have the opportunity to contribute, it's time to say yes. While training for ministry, we're often challenged to define what faith means. My personal definition is this: faith gives us the means to temporarily travel directly from surviving to thriving without having to pass go. Similarly, a faith community is the place where we can be temporarily exempt from the laws of that hierarchy of scarcity that we are all born into, receiving and contributing resources as we each need. I believe the church should be a place where we can reorder society on a minute scale to short-circuit the systems that create economic and class inequality in our larger society. Part of empowering this community together is being willing to have our wants and needs met. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do to contribute is asking for help. Let me tell you a story about something amazing that happened in my internship congregation. It was 2020, and for the first time, we were facing the realities of a holiday season in the context of a pandemic. In previous years, the congregation had offered a Thanksgiving feast open to community members of all means and backgrounds, a chance to share the holiday meal side by side with others. This was an event that many looked forward to throughout the season. In 2020, however, we knew it would be unsafe to gather and eat together, but how could we allow Thanksgiving to pass without providing for those who depend on this event for physical, social, and spiritual nourishment? The ministry team and staff decided to work with a team of volunteers to help bring meals to those who wanted one, and we asked for responses from those who would be willing to volunteer, as well as those who wanted a meal. In the first few weeks after we announced this plan, I received many responses from people who were willing to deliver a meal. In fact, I received quite a few responses from people who were eager to deliver meals. Several members of the congregation wrote to me that it would mean a lot to them to be assigned some deliveries. Being of service during this holiday season was extra meaningful, during a year when days had so often felt meaningless. But here's where the story gets interesting. With the holiday coming up fast, I only had about a third as many people who had asked to receive a meal as those who had offered to deliver one. I ended up having to put a call out encouraging people to accept a meal. And in the end, we were able to feed around 60 families in the congregation and surrounding community. And it was a very special day for the volunteers who cooked, the volunteers who drove, and the volunteers who ate. In that moment, the willingness to receive a Thanksgiving meal became a generous act. The needs which were present then and remain present now are connection, fulfillment, purpose, hope, a sense of community. Together, we had the means of surviving covered, and we're now offering each other the means of thriving. This is the magic of faith. So church needs to be a mutual space. Each church needs people to give their time, talent, and capital because the people also have a need to be in the continuum of giving and receiving. Each of us will get very little fulfillment from this arrangement until we take the time to inspect what it is that we think of ourselves when we give and receive. When we put ourselves in solidarity with each other, knowing that each of us is a being of immeasurable worth, knowing that what hurts one of us hurts all of us, knowing that what heals one heart heals the world, the next part is easy. Loving solidarity reminds us that our value is not dependent on what we give and how much. We are all holy and whole and deserving of the deep connection which comes from supporting each other into thriving. So in this season of stewardship, I invite you once again to consider what this community needs to be life-giving, and do whatever is in your power to bring it to life. If you can write a pledge, write a pledge. If you can volunteer, volunteer. If you can sing, sing. If you can ask for help, ask for help. If you can show up on Sunday with your whole heart, bring your heart here. If you can tell your friends how special this congregation is to you, then, my friends, please testify. All of these things are needed, and certainly other things that I haven't considered here. Each of us is needed, and each of us is enough. You are a blessing to us and to me. Together we can, so go forth and give this church life in any way you are called.
Please rise in body and or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night.
Our benediction today comes from the timeless wisdom of Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs now is people who have come alive. Please be seated while we appreciate our postlude.